computer. Co-host. Okay. Hey Tracy.
Hello.
You all right?
Yeah, going good.
And how was the
Hello,
sun?
everybody.
How was the sun in the Bahamas then?
Yeah, just a memory now, Alistair.
Dear me. I went to Fermanagh and you went to Bahamas, you know. So
But I was on my honeymoon now. Come on.
excuses, you know. And Kelly. Good morning, Kelly. Where are you from, Kelly?
Morning.
Sorry, Kelly.
Darrow, Development Alumni Relations Office. And so I've linked in because my daughter is type 1.
Okay.
She will be having her diaversary now next Saturday, 2 years, as we call it, the diaversary.
Yeah.
How old is she?
She's 11. So diagnosed at 9.
Good. Well, I'm going to say good, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How are you?
Oh, grand. It is a shock because we have no diabetes in the family. Whenever she was first diagnosed, so it was a lot to get our heads around. But we're away on Saturday now at a wee T1D group. We go bowling and stuff like that there, and it's good for the kids, but it's good for the parents as well. I think you need those kind of wee groups. They're like a life support, really.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Catherine, how are you?
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me okay?
You can. You're very quiet, but we can hear you.
I'm having problems. It keeps
I know that, Catherine.
installing.
We will give it another couple of minutes.
I should have kept my nails blue. I had them blue the other day for for Diabetes Day on Sunday. I had them.
Does she have a blue jumper on the thing?
I know, look, I have blue, yeah. So there you go.
So did I. My thumb.
Your nails?
Yeah.
Toenails, just toenails.
Yeah.
Alistair, can you make me co-host before we kick off, just so that I can share that video?
I've done that.
Thanks.
Can you see that? Can you
have a look? Yes, I got it now. Thank you.
You okay?
I wanted to join the conversation because my mother had diabetes and that, like, she's passed away quite a number of years, but apparently then I wasn't born at the time. My grandmother had it, so it's in the family. So
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
So I'm just waiting to want to find out as much as I can.
You're waiting for a knock at the door then, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's a good crowd, and I mean, I reckon there'll be ones who will be joining us shortly. Can I just kick off by saying it's really good to see you all here. Sunday was, as has been mentioned, World Diabetes Day, and we've linked up with Diabetes UK, and big welcome to Heather Kaiser for joining us. Heather runs the show down there, and so more than pleased that Heather's come along then just to oversee everything that's going on today. And Heather, I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Alistair. So thanks everyone for having me, and thanks for Alistair for putting on the session today over lunchtime. So we'll try and keep it nice and short and and sweet and informative for everybody. When I spoke to Alistair yesterday, because we do like to keep flying by the seat of our pants, we wanted to keep it really informal and have conversation and chat. So if you do have any questions, you can pop them in the chat, or you can stick your hand up. Alistair, myself and John will be doing some talking, so we will try and keep our eye on the chats that's coming through. So yeah, happy World Diabetes Day. World Diabetes Day is one day, but there's also Diabetes Month is November as well. So we really like to make sure we celebrate it from start to finish. And also, when World Diabetes Day falls on a weekend, we like to ensure we celebrate the whole week after as well, because, you know, you really do have to make sure we're out there shouting about it. So our theme this year, as Kerry mentioned, was nailing diabetes, which was encouraging people to paint their nails blue for diabetes for World Diabetes Day, which was great. We've had so many pictures coming through of people with blue nails, blue toenails, blue hair, all different things. So thanks very much for everyone that got involved in that. And also in Northern Ireland, we've been pushing local council buildings to light up blue, and really want to say a huge thank you to the McGee campus, the MD building, for lighting up blue for us over the weekend. That was great, and thanks very much. And Alistair and the Coleraine group were down there getting photographs as well, so that's really good. Also today is a really important day in the world of Diabetes UK Northern Ireland, and that is because we are launching the Diabetes Serious Report. So this is a report for Northern Ireland looking at our response from COVID and how we're going to move forward and dealing with diabetes in the NHS and surrounding services. So as I speak, Phil, our policy manager, and Shakira, our media manager, and national director Tina McCrossan are all up at Stormont banging on the doors of our MLAs to push the report to them and let them know how serious diabetes is, and that it hasn't gone away since COVID arrived. So just to let you know, we are still lobbying and campaigning for better diabetes services. So I'm going to really introduce myself. So as Alistair said, apparently I run the show, but I promise you I don't. I just get involved in a lot of things. So I'm the volunteer development manager. So I would work closely with Alistair and John and Dawn, who's on the call, and a couple of others. I work quite closely with those around volunteering, support groups, diabetes forums, oh my goodness me, lots of different things. So I might have my fingers in quite a few pies when it comes to working with a few people. So yeah, so Alice asked me along today just to talk about diabetes and raise awareness of the condition. So I'm really happy to also welcome John. So John's with us today. John is living with type 2 diabetes, and as I don't know if many of you know, Alistair lives with type 1 diabetes. So later on we're going to do a bit of a question and answer session, question time with the two of them, where I'm going to ask them some very informal, relaxed questions, and at that point as well you can jump in and ask some questions as well. So I wanted to kick off today to talk about what is diabetes. I know a number of you on the call know what diabetes is, live with diabetes, have family members that have it, have heard all about it. But Alistair asked if we could talk about it. So I said, I know what, just so you don't have to hear my Midlands droning on Yorkshire accent cross with a bit of Northern Ireland, because the video was so long, I'll share a nice video of Philip Schofield explaining it all so lovely. So I'm going to share a video, fingers crossed technology works for us, which talks about what is diabetes, what is the difference between type 1 and type 2. And if you have any questions at the end of that video, stick them in the chat, or during the video, stick them in the chat, and I can try and answer them after the video is finished. So let me just bear with me. I'm just going to mute myself just in case it all goes wrong and I start swearing under my breath. So just wait.
There are two main types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. They're different conditions, but they're both serious. There are some other rarer types of diabetes too. What all types of diabetes have in common is that they cause people to have too much glucose in their blood. But we all need some glucose. It's what gives us our energy. We get glucose when our bodies break down the carbohydrates that we eat or drink, and that glucose is released into our blood. We also need a hormone called insulin. It's made by our pancreas, and it's insulin that allows the glucose in our blood to enter our cells and fuel our bodies. If you don't have diabetes, your pancreas senses when glucose has entered your bloodstream and releases the right amount of insulin so the glucose can get into your cells. But if you have diabetes, this system doesn't work. When you've got type 1 diabetes, you can't make any insulin at all. If you've got type 2 diabetes, it's a bit different. The insulin you make either can't work effectively or you can't produce enough of it. In both types of diabetes, because glucose can't get into your cells, it begins to build up in your blood. And too much glucose in your blood causes a lot of different problems. To begin with, it leads to diabetes symptoms like having to wee a lot, being incredibly thirsty and feeling very tired. You may also lose weight, get infections like thrush, or suffer from slow healing wounds. Over a long period of time, high glucose levels in your blood can seriously damage your heart, your eyes, your feet, and your kidneys. These are known as the complications of diabetes. But with the right treatment and care, people can live a healthy life. And there's much less risk that someone will experience these complications. If you've got diabetes, you can find lots of information and support about living with it using our website and helpline. As well as campaigning for everyone with diabetes to get the right care, Diabetes UK fund research into all types of diabetes so we can develop new treatments and one day find a cure.
So that is what is diabetes and what's type 1 and type 2. Is there any questions about that before we move on to ask the experts who are living with diabetes? No, silence. That's good. Okay. I like silence is good. That's fine. But don't worry, I'm gonna ask some questions now to Alistair and John. So and then through those questions, if there's anything you'd there is someone, that's great. Thank you for that. If there is any questions, then sure, please just shout out or pop in the chat. We'll keep our eye on it. So I first like to say hello to John. Hi, John.
Hello, Heather. How are you? It's good to be here.
Thank you for joining us. And hi, Alistair. A lot of you know who Alistair is. So I'm going to kick off with, I'm going to ask John first. So John, you're living with type 2 diabetes?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So how was you diagnosed? How did you discover you had type 2 diabetes?
Well, there is a story behind this, so I'll keep it as short as possible. I actually have a rare disease called fibrous dysplasia, and I've had it since I was a child. But I was only officially diagnosed 2 years ago because I basically have a tumor that's non-cancerous, and it was always monitored by x-rays to make sure that it hadn't changed, and various blood tests over the years. But about 2 years ago, I started to feel extremely tired and sort of had a feeling it's been run down. And I went back to the doctor, and he did more tests to determine whether it was this condition that I had might have been causing the issue. But I was lucky enough to be referred to a consultant in the Ulster Hospital who did an autopsy on the what they call the lump, and it turned out it was fibrous dysplasia. And because it was starting to affect some of my thyroid, because of thyroid issues, they discovered then that I had diabetes. And because there's not much known about the condition that I have, I did a lot of research myself with the Mayo Clinic and found out that as a result of having that condition, I have a 50% higher chance of developing diabetes. So over a period of a year, with various blood tests, because I had 3 blood tests in a row which showed high blood sugar, they were able to determine then I was diabetic. Basically, obviously, it's not type 1 because a lot is not known about my disease. I could, in theory, be a type 3, but at the moment, because in Northern Ireland, you're usually diagnosed in either type 1 or type 2. So that's how I found out 2 years ago. So it was a big surprise for me. And getting diagnosed officially for once with what my condition is, it meant then I was able to do a lot more research on it, and I've actually been able to educate my own GP and been able to manage my condition a wee bit better. But the diabetes is a byproduct of that.
Yeah. And how do you manage your diabetes, John? Do you mind us asking?
Well, basically, because now I'm diabetic, I've developed obviously high blood pressure, which is associated with that, and high cholesterol. So my GP has me on 3 different medications to control that. And by and large, it does work effectively well. I do always did sort of lead a healthy sort of eating lifestyle. You know, I was never really a sweetie person, so I have been told I could have led the healthiest diet in the world. It wouldn't have made any difference. I was genetically imposed to developing diabetes. But I do try to do lots of exercise, you know, go for walks every day, at least twice a day. I did join a gym through a service called the Physical Activity Referred Service, which your GP can recommend to you. And that was more just to get a more sort of, in a small group of about 4 people, a one-to-one session with a fitness instructor at the local council gym, to be able to develop a plan to try and keep myself more fit, to try and keep my weight under control, because my weight can now fluctuate with thyroid issues. And that is it's not a permanent thing, that it comes and goes, so they don't put me on medication for that, because that could end up causing me further issues. So it's basically just down to medication, exercise, and having to keep a good control on what I actually eat.
That's good. Thanks, John. I'll come back to you. Alistair, how were you diagnosed? And I know it was a number of years ago, so if we can all remember back then, how were you diagnosed, Alistair, and how did you find out you had type 1 diabetes?
Okay, Heather. Thank you for alluding to my age. I was very, very kind of you, you know.
I wanted to get in there before you did, so.
Yeah. So I was diagnosed 56 years ago. Whenever I was 6. So some of you will be able to do that sum in your heads, and other will have to get the calculator out. But there you go. The answer will still be the same. And I suppose, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, there's Jimmy on here and Dawn on there, and they probably have really good stories. Dawn's got a fantastic story about diagnosis, but because it was that length of time ago, A, I can't remember, and there's nobody around to tell me. B, the testing procedures that they have now did not exist. So you get a lot of people who say now, I went in and my bloods were, you know, 30, 33.4 or something. They didn't have that ability back then. So all I know and all I can really remember is hanging over the bathroom sink, just gulping water down from the tap. And, you know, it was a unquenchable thirst, right? Unquenchable thirst. And yeah, I must have run to the loo because we sit inside the sink anyway. So, you know, and I think at the time then I lost weight there, and mother was observant, and next thing I knew I was in the children's hospital, and that was that. And yeah, my story is I can remember being led down the corridor by this blue uniform, telling me to stop crying because I better get used to it. I'm going to be on injections for the rest of my life, you know. So so that was the way that it was. I you know, so back then I wish my mother, I had taken the time to ask my mother what the impact was on her. I mean, Kelly's here, and I'm sure if I asked her what, you know, how she was on diagnosis, you know, she'd say complete wreck, you know, and really distraught. As a child, I never saw that. And I think you asked me later on what was it taught me. I do thank my parents for giving me, I suppose, a way of life that basically just takes it and moves on. It was never seen as a barrier. It was just something that had to be done, and that was. I remember being at my granny's house and making tea. And I went put the sugar in because everybody had sugar in the tea then. And she went, "Oh no, you're not allowed to do that now." And probably I think she found sweeteners or something. You know, but that's the way it was, Heather. So
yeah. And Alistair, I obviously am not alluding back to how long you've been diagnosed for and been living a very healthy life. What about, has a treatment developed over those years? I mean, were you boiling your needles up? Can you remember that state? Was that when you were diagnosed? And what about the insulin pen? And then also like the treatment that you are managing your condition with now? Like, can you talk us through that quite briefly about the different transitions through technology and treatment methods with type 1?
All right. There's going to be sighs come out from around the room at the minute whenever I go. Well, this is, and I have no idea why I kept it, but I have kept it. So this is the glass syringe that my wife says whenever we got married, I came with a Labrador dog and a pot for boiling the syringes in. So glass syringe, and then you had the steel needle on top. Then it had to be sharpened. So it was none of this one-use nonsense. Basically, you used it, boiled it, and sharpened it if it came that way. So that's the way it started. And I mean, I'm sure that was for like the good 20, maybe 30 years. I was on those, and then the plastic syringes came along after that. And it was probably, I'm trying to think, it was probably in the 90s before I got onto the disposable pens, or the pens that you actually dial up the dosage and then put them in. And then 6 years ago, I went on to the pump. I mean, if you're talking to diabetics, suddenly they start taking their clothes off, but I'm not going to do that here.
Yeah, it's true. It is true.
And just to say, and now I'm on an insulin pump. I'll do something that you shouldn't do, but this is just so you can see it. So basically, and Don will be shouting at me, say, quick, get that tube back in there again. So that's an insulin pump, and there's a tube comes out here and it goes into a cannula, and you've got a reservoir down here. And whereas the syringe will give you units at a time, this here will give you points off, so it really, really can very, very fine, give you very, very fine amounts of insulin in there. So the whole way of working now for diabetics is completely changed from what it was. And then from the knowledge of where your blood sugars were, years ago, you used to, I'm trying to sanitize this, it used to be urine, and you put drops in, added a tablet to it, there was an explosion in the test tube, and you got a color as a result of that there. And that told you where your blood levels were or had been. And it wasn't until the 80s came along that you could do finger pricks and get a measurement for your blood. And then probably another 10 years later on, then this test came up that shows you where your bloods have been for the last 3 months. So that's where we are. And now we have these things stuck into our arms, these Libra sensors. And this is connected in here to let you see where my bloods are. So it's at 8.4 at the minute. That's a bit high, but that's because I gave myself some food in case I dropped and died during this time. So that's why they're sitting a wee bit higher at the minute.
Thanks, Alistair. It's incredible. And there's all the loop-in and all the rest of the technology that goes along with that. And I know that you and Dawn could have a whole day talking about that if we let you.
Well, just very quickly, I mean,
yes.
If you saw the One show last night, there was a wee girl on there who had just been fitted with a device that connected her pump, wherever the pump is, her pump to her blood sensor monitor in her arm, and it went through a device, and it controlled the amount of insulin then that she was being given, and it gives you tight enough control, very, very tight control. And Dawn introduced me to a do-it-yourself, non-approved by the health service version of this that allows you to do the same, where you build an app using programming that's been done for you and download it onto your phone, and it just keeps an eye on where your sugars are, how much insulin again, how much food have you taken, etc., where the targets are, and it adjusts the amounts of insulin that goes into you. So it's been from the days of this, to this,
Incredible.
absolutely amazing.
It's amazing. It's incredible. And I suppose Kelly would know, being a mummy of a child, is that she can also keep an eye on what's happening on her phone as well, which is also incredible for a parent to be able to know, you know.
How high Lauren is. She's like 19.2.
Okay, we don't talk about that.
And you're saying you're in the 8s and you're high.
So yeah, I think it's incredible to see that technology.
We laughed the other day, you know, we went to McDonald's and I said to her, "Are you high?" And she goes, "You know, Mummy, any other parent asking a child that, are you high at the minute?"
Has a whole different meaning. Are you high? Thanks so much. John, come back to you. What is the daily? I think, you know, I don't have diabetes. I don't live with diabetes. My mummy is a diabetes specialist nurse, so I suppose I see that side of it, but I don't know what it's like to live with diabetes. What's the impact of diabetes on your daily life?
Well, you have your medication regime to do. So obviously most type 2s are usually diet controlled, or like myself, I'm just on tablets. So I have to make sure I'm taking my tablets in the morning, tablets at tea time, and tablets before I go to bed. If I were to miss any of those, I probably would notice it maybe later on in the day. I would start feeling maybe a wee bit tired. So I need to keep doing that to keep my sugar levels down. You do have to think very carefully about your meals for the day. You know, you go out anywhere, if you go out for a cup of tea or coffee, you know, the people are trying to push you into cream buns and loads of stuff like that during the day, you know. And if you did end up taking one, you have to think, oh, that's my treat for the day. I shouldn't really be taking anything more for the rest of the day. But you do have to be careful, like all diabetics. You have, you know, I do especially check my feet every day, because if you do get cuts in those, and if your sugar levels are up, it takes a long time for those maybe wounds to heal. I've already seen about Peter Weir in the news what happened to him if you don't do that. So it's looking at for things like that there, and sort of just trying to be careful, you know, of things that don't put your sugars up. You know, when you're type 2, you don't really have the extra labor or anything like that. So I do just have the glucose monitoring kit that I have. So at least once a day, I would check my sugars, maybe around 4 tea time, to make sure they're not too high. I'll see if I need to up my medication or not. Yeah, it's just trying to keep that in your head. You have to do that a regime every day. And once you get into it, like it does become sort of natural, and you don't think much about it. But you do have to think about basically exercise. You know, every day I do have a set amount of exercise for walking that I like to do, and I need to make sure I stick to that there, because it does. I can keep the weight under control. It does make a big difference. So.
Good. And the pleased to know this will be your last question, John. I won't probe you anymore unless anybody else has got any questions for you. But what is a positive that diabetes has brought to your life?
Well, I've met loads of people like yourself, Ulster and Donny. So
it's a massive positive, huge positive in your life, and I hound you every day for something.
Yes, yeah. So it has opened up an avenue into a wider community out there, which is good for support. It also made me personally look at how I was getting treatment for my condition, and that's what made me decide to join the Diabetes Network, because there definitely needs to be improvements at GP level and throughout the health service about the access to treatment that you get. So that's why I joined that to join the New Models of Care group to try and help improve diabetes care within Northern Ireland, to make it consistent, so that no matter where you live throughout the province, that you will have access to the same treatments and the same level of care, which doesn't happen at the moment. So it sort of actually launched me into doing voluntary work, which is quite positive. And it also, to an extent, it made me reassess, looking at myself as an individual, as to how I look after self, a bit more onus and more focus on that. I need to be careful now to try and keep the diabetes under control, so they don't develop further complications going forward as I get older. So yeah, there are positives to it, all right, yes.
Oh, thanks, John. And Alistair, back to you. So obviously you've I keep alluding to this. I feel really bad. So, you know, you've lived with your diabetes for a very short time, obviously. What's the impact on your daily life of living with diabetes? And also then I'll finish off with you the same sort of question. And if you can let us know the positive side of diabetes for you as well.
Okay. I think, I mean, I'll probably start, there's a girl in the university called Claire Nevin, and I must probably apologize to her because she asked me, would I do something for Hidden Disabilities Month in connection with diabetes? And it's one of those things that, yes, you can find it in the DDA legislation, that diabetes is down there as a disability, but I have never viewed it as that. But if a child is diagnosed today, and the problem is hidden because probably a lot of people know people who are diabetics, but have no idea what that actually means. So a child diagnosed today can be looking at 2,500 injections each year. You know, which if you look at it, I mean, Tracy's here, and Tracy looks after the health screening and vaccination of our nurses and allied health professional students, and some of them getting one injection, honestly, they flake out and have a terrible time. But can you imagine 2,500 injections in a year? I mean, that is amazing, you know, for a child doing that. And again, looking back to my parents, I must say thanks to them, because from day one, I was sticking the needle in myself. That 6-year-old, I was sticking needles in myself, and that was life. I never knew anything. And, you know, for parents, I just say, look, encourage your kids to be independent and do that. And also, now Libra's here, but before Libra, you were talking about having finger pricked 2,000 times a year, just to see where they're sitting. So that's the hidden side. And also, whenever you got up, Heather, this morning, what did you have for breakfast?
What did I have for breakfast? Oh, I had overnight oats. And I didn't think one bit about it.
I have no idea what they are.
Just oats and yogurt, just oats and yogurt.
All right, okay. So in my head, I'm going, oats, well, I had porridge this morning, and that had 24 grams of carb in it. Yogurt, I don't know how many grams of carbohydrates that would have in it. Diabetics they make apparently like an extra couple of 100,000 decisions each day.
Incredible.
You get up in the morning, you think, what are my bloods sitting at? And Kelly's doing this for her daughter, going, look where she is, you know, she has to do whatever, you know. So where are my bloods sitting at? If they are high, then for every mouthful of food that contains carbohydrates I eat, I need to give myself insulin. Okay. And if my bloods are high, then I need to give myself that amount of insulin plus a bit more to try and bring them down. And if my bloods are low, then I either give myself less, or I delve into my goodie jar here of Jelly Baby and just try to bring myself up. And that goes on right through the day. As you go, the bloods come, and for non-diabetics, their blood level will sit fairly flat, taking the odd spike of their, you know, their McDonald's or whatever, and then it'll come back down again. It'll be controlled. With diabetics, we give ourselves, I don't know what, 3, 4, 5 times the amount of insulin that non-diabetics do. We stick it in a place in our body that's nowhere near where it's needed, in the hope that somehow that insulin gets to the place where it is needed. So, and if it's sunny outside, or if I have to walk quickly, I've missed the bus or the train, then basically, you know, that immediately I'm using burning energy, so therefore my blood levels drop. So everything comes in there, you know, for the ladies, hormonal levels and everything kicks in. I'll let you go see Dawn about that there. But there's so many things you'll hide if you're worried about something, if you have an infection, etc., etc., etc. The positive for me being a type 1, not being a type 2, is I can go and have 3 cream buns, John, and just give myself a wee bit more insulin, you know, and do that there. And there's Catherine said, don't underestimate the daily battle of the sugars, you know. You know, so there's so much you do. And then whenever you get to the end of the day, you're going, are my bloods high enough for me to go to bed?
Yeah.
Without having a hypo during the night? Because then again, having a hypo during the night is a big fear that people with diabetes have. So all those things on, and I mean, it is relentless. It does keep going on and on and on, but it's hidden from everybody. You know, nobody sees it apart from the individual and their family members. With the lipine where I'm now, it's taken some of those away. All the life, you know, that does improve or has improved.
There is a video at the moment, Alistair. Have you seen it with the balloon? The person with diabetes constantly with the balloon.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very, very good. It just shows their balance, and you're constantly balancing all day long this balloon to keep your bloods right, and that's very good.
It's there, and I mean, it is just constant. And I mean, you as a parent, I don't know how many times you're up during the night. You know, I don't know how many times you wake, and the first time you, I mean, I have this thing charging beside me during the night, and I can just open my eyes, look at it, and go, I'm all right. Close my eyes again. But Kelly, obviously for you, then it's a wee bit different there. If you're asking, I mean, I'm seeing the time's 25 too. I mean,
I know, I'm just going to move you along. So come on, give me a positive. Other than eating all the cream buns to upset John, what's your positive? Come on, give me one quickly.
I think it's given me the ability to face life with whatever comes, and to be able to cope better. You know, because again, from the way I was brought up and then having to deal with this, it's just there. And do you know what? I could sit and complain and gurn and get really upset and all that, but it's still there. It has to be dealt with. So from a positive mindset point of view, get on with it and deal with it and go and live your life. And really, it hasn't really stopped me doing anything. And there's on the WhatsApp group, a diabetic one was on, I think last year, somebody asked the questions, would you rather be cured from diabetes or have £1 million? And there was a split of the answers, you know. I was in the crowd that would take £1 million and just carry on doing what I'm doing. But obviously there were some people who weren't that way. So.
Oh, thank you, Alistair, and thank you, John. If there's any questions for them both, if you want to pop them in the chat, just a bit conscious of time. Alistair instructed me to keep to time as much as possible, but he forgets that we can both rabbit on for as long as we'd like. So I'm really sorry. I'm trying not to make us overrun here. I know it's everyone's lunchtime. So Alistair was talking about also the technology and how things have moved on. At Diabetes UK, obviously Diabetes UK is Diabetes UK, and we're Diabetes UK Northern Ireland, but we receive no money from the government for research. We are solely we fund ourselves through donations and legacies. And we are incredibly lucky, the amount of research money that we pile in each year to try and find a world where diabetes can do no harm. And that has been looking through things from, you know, we celebrated 100 years of insulin on Sunday, and you can find out all about that. On January, we celebrate the first administration of 100 years of insulin into a human being, which is very exciting. So in January 2022, that will be a huge celebration for that as well. As Alistair was saying, the technology and the way that we administer insulin has moved on, and we wouldn't be able to do that without the research that goes on every single day into diabetes. And I can give you a real quick roundup of some of the diabetes research that we are looking at currently. And you know, at the minute we're focusing on the type 2 for diabetes remission. So I'm not quite sure if people are aware, we have a remission pilot in the southeastern trust of Northern Ireland, and that is a remission to try and put type 2 diabetes into remission. You're not cured of diabetes, you know, it's into remission, and you have to manage that under a very strict calorie controlled diet. And at the minute, there's about 50 people going through the programme, and there's some great success stories already from that. There's obviously, we're looking at the artificial pancreas, there's tackling sight loss, there is preventing amputations, and a huge thing that we're looking at is the islet cell transplant, by saying that before you've had any lunch. And this research continues day in, day out. And in Northern Ireland, we are even more incredibly lucky that we have 2 universities, UU and the Queen's, that fund some really, carry out some incredible research. And we are incredibly grateful for all of the hard work those researchers do in trying to help us find a world where diabetes can do no harm. And for more information, you can find out about all of the research that Diabetes UK carries out on our website. There's things from looking at frogs to looking at hormones and how that all works. There's huge breadth, and we have an incredible retinopathy eyesight research happening as well in the university. So it's really incredible. So thank you very much to everybody that's either taken part in that, who has donated to us and supported the charity through all of that research. And then that really leads me on to talk for Alistair to quickly mention, also Alistair has a side role of supporting the local Corinne support group, and they recently handed us over a cheque of £7,000, which has gone to research in Northern Ireland, which is incredible. So I'll let Alistair give a quick plug of his group.
Okay, listen, I mean, what I would say is that one thing I have found, I mean, I was 50 years a diabetic before I met another person I could talk to about diabetes, which, looking back is absolutely crazy. And if you've got diabetes, it is so good just sit in a room and say something to somebody who totally understands. It is so good. So if you are in a support group or you're not in a support group, then look to see who you can find. On the Diabetes UK website, you can actually stick in your postcode, I think, and it brings up your nearest group. Or contact me and I'll put you in touch with Heather and try to find you a link then to a group. Get in a WhatsApp group, get in somewhere where you can actually talk to people and share, because peer support is vitally important. So what I would say to, I mean, it's great, there's about 25, 26 here, is any questions, please come back to me then afterwards. It's not a problem. And I probably won't know the answer, but I can definitely direct you on. And the other thing is that on New Year's Day, I'm sure you don't have anything planned for the morning at 11 o'clock. So please join us in Castle Rock and bring your swimming causes with you, and turn blue for diabetes with us as we run screaming into the sea, and then run screaming back out again, and then pick up a coffee at the Surf Shack. So we're doing that just to raise funds again for Diabetes UK, and either nominate somebody or come yourself. It'd be great to see you there. So that's me, I think.
Oh, thanks, Alistair. So there's no question in the chat. I have just popped a link in for the Diabetes UK NI. It's the Diabetes Serious Report. So if anyone wants to take a look at that, it is a little bit of the high level side of the report, but there is what I call my terms of report will be landing soon. So the layman's term of the report will be landing soon. So if anyone wants to take a look at that, but that's the link to it now. That's what I was talking about at the start. So a huge thank you to Alistair and John for attending, and for all of you to come and giving up your lunchtime today to come along and hear me waffle and ramble on, and to listen to Alistair and John tell us what it's actually like to live with diabetes, and thanks to everyone's interaction with Kelly and for giving us the insight of a parent's life as well. As Alistair says, diabetes doesn't go away. Us as a charity aren't disappearing anywhere. So if you'd like any more information, any support, as Alistair said, we're here and we can help you. We can give awareness talks, we can update you, we can give you peer support, we can do what we can. But huge thank you for Alistair for asking me to come today and host his session. I'm not as good as the last host he had, but you know, I'm trying to up my game. And thanks everyone again. Lovely to see you, and have a good rest of your lunch break. And happy World Diabetes Day, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks, guys. That was great.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Very
All the
much.
best.